about to take us live, and we're here.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Paul Salfen. I'm with AMFM Magazine, and tonight we have something very, very special for you because we are live with a very special film called Hour Outcall. And today we're honored to be joined by the guys who put so much hard work into this thing, and we're going to hear their stories right now. But first, let's introduce them. First of all, our fearless leader, our director, T, is here with us. T. Arthur Cotton, say hello.
Hello, I'm T. Arthur Cotton. Thanks for having me.
Yes. And we're so honored that you're here with us today. And William Nort, who not only wrote it, but stars in it as well. And we're happy to have you here with us today. And then Sam Hook, our editor and producer.
Hello. Glad to be here.
Yes. So for those that are not familiar with this film, who wants to take a stab at about what we're about to get into here?
I think that should be Bill's responsibility.
Take it away, Bill.
Bill does a really good pitch of this.
Oh, all right. Pressure alert. Okay, well, 1 Hour Outcall is about a middle-aged divorced man, Greg, played by me, who begins to see a high class call girl every Thursday evening at 8 p.m. over the course of a year. And during the year, they develop a relationship and an intimacy. And about midway through the film, complications kind of rise up, and Greg's motives become a little bit more clear. So.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know this film was really kind of tough to put together because you had a limited crew. Sometimes, from what I understand, as little as 2 people on the crew. And so it's amazing that you guys did this. But we want to hear some of the stories after the film. But first of all, let's go ahead and talk about what it took to put this thing together. Before we go into this, because people are going to have technical questions later, I'm sure. But for now, it just tell us a little bit about the hard work that went into this, because there's a lot of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and by the way, anybody who's watching, please put questions in the chat. I'd be happy to answer anybody's questions, technical or otherwise. But yeah, it's a micro budget film, so by design, there were challenges, most of them financial, a lot of the challenges come up because you can't just throw money at problems, but it was a labor of love. Everything, for the most part, went pretty smoothly, and it was really a pleasant experience working with the cast and crew. And as you said, Paul, most of the time the crew was just myself and Jim Esham, who basically acted as assistant camera and sound person and just my right-hand man pretty much throughout the whole shoot. And then I shot it and directed it and produced it. Did most of the nuts and bolts producing as we went along.
Mm-hmm. And William, tell us a little bit about the inspiration for the story, because you're actually at an interesting place in your life, and I think people are going to find this interesting and help them get to know you a little bit better before we go into this.
Okay. Well, I grew up wanting to make movies and had always dreamed about. In a way, I'd always dreamed about making a micro-budget film. I grew up liking a lot of independent films. So about 7 years ago, 2014, I was 44 and working a job that was paying me well, but I felt like I was kind of running out of time. I had always wanted to take a trip around the world. So I felt like I was running out of time to do it. So I quit my job and traveled around the world for 10 months and basically wrote the bulk of 1 Hour Outcall while I was traveling. T and I had talked about it in the past, but I had not really kind of gotten off my duff well enough to get the script together, but did while I was traveling. And then when I got back, much in the same spirit that kind of told me that I felt like I was running out of time to travel around the world, I told myself it kind of feels like I'm running out of time to try and make a micro-budget movie. So I asked T to direct, and then I set about, basically begging and borrowing from friends and family over the years, and and we got it done. And T did most of the nuts and bolts producing. I came up with the money, and T turned a very little amount of money into something pretty great, and certainly looks much more expensive than what it actually cost to make it. So I'm glad I hooked up with it.
And I'd like to just add that technically Bill was homeless, jobless, and carless during the whole production of this movie.
When I quit my job to take the trip around the world, when I came back, I did not have a home. I was obviously jobless after I quit my job. But the most difficult thing about making a movie was being carless in Los Angeles, because being carless in Los Angeles, people look at you like you have a terminal disease. So it was actually, that was the biggest challenge. Not so much not having a job, because it actually freed up the time to make the movie. Not having a home was survivable, because I had a lot of friends who had couches who were very generous. But not having a car for a while, that was a true challenge.
Yeah, and Sam, let's hear from you a little bit about producing this thing and editing too. That's a job that I would not want, because it's
Sure.
like so much good stuff.
My role on this was primarily as editor. The producing aspect kind of came in more in the post-production phase of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But editing, I was brought onto this. A mutual friend between T and I, a filmmaker named Tom Putnam. We collaborate a lot together. He recommended me to T, and we'd never met before that. And so I started out just being an on-set editor, starting just to assemble things as it was being shot. And then just kept going after that, putting the first cut together. And we went through about, I think, 10 different cuts of this before we finally settled on the final version. But yeah, it was about a year-long process to edit, just to really refine, because there were so many pieces of the movie that we shot that didn't end up in the movie. So it was a lot of pick and choosing which parts exactly we want to use and what order we want to put them in, because that was a debate for a while as well.
Mm-hmm.
Since the movie is so nonlinear, we could kind of do whatever we wanted.
Yeah, absolutely. And Bill, let's talk a little bit about the theme of this. I know people just read about it, or if they just hear about it, they may get one kind of idea about what they're getting into here. But we should say, first of all, that this is not something where there's a judgment on her profession, per se.
That was an interesting thing I wanted to kind of to do in writing the story. Is I wanted to have the escort aspect of Esmeralda, the character's name. I wanted the escort aspect to be something that was relevant, but I didn't want to make any judgments on it, and I didn't want the film to make any judgments on it. So it's not as if like it's just in the background. It's there, but there's no comment on whether it's good or bad or beneficial or unhealthy or whatever. I wanted it to be part of the story, but I didn't want to comment on that. And I actually did have kind of the notion or the idea that people might hear what the story was about and have kind of a preconceived notion about it, and then hopefully the film would turn those preconceptions on their head, and whoever saw the film with the idea in mind going into it would come out of it with a different idea or different kind of assessment as to what they had just seen. That was a challenge for me, and I think we did it. I think we accomplished it. So.
Mm-hmm. And the platforms where this is available, of course, it's on several. And in about 5 minutes, we're going to ask everybody to watch the film together, which is going to be pretty neat. But you get to choose the platform that you're on. So not only we should tell people where they could watch it, but also how to get on there too, and because it's not easy to get a film in any of these platforms, but you managed to get it in several, which is great.
We finished the film, and we started submitting it to film festivals, and we were very fortunate to get accepted at a handful of film festivals. The Block Island Film Festival in Rhode Island, shout out to Cash, that was our premiere. And then we got into the Valley Film Festival in the San Fernando Valley, and being in the Valley Film Festival was a huge step for us because that got us a sales agent. And the sales agent is what got it in front of distributors. And it's kind of a funny story, is because we got the sales agent right as Corona hit, and I called our sales agent kind of with the expectation that he would be like, well, things are going to slow down. I don't know, the pandemic, I don't know. And I asked him, and he goes, I'm still working. And we had 4 offers from distributors within a month. And we chose Gravitas because we liked what their pitch was, and we thought that Gravitas gave us the best chance for success. And that's part of what that means, is having it be available on Google Play and YouTube and Amazon and Vudu and all these different platforms. Gravitas has been helpful in that regard. So it's widely available. If you've got something that you can stream with, you can probably find the film. So that's been the path for us. So yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful, and that's such a challenge right now too, because distribution is huge, and of course, one thing we've learned by not being able to go to the theaters is, well, you just got to get it wherever you can. And now we all have these home systems that are pretty great. So we've got better TVs, we've got better sound, and we're getting kind of used to watching things at home. Although it'd be great to watch this in the theater with you guys. We're going to enjoy it just like this, and it's just fine. Right?
Sure.
Mm-hmm. And before we get into the film, is there anything else that you want to add that maybe people should know before they're getting into this?
I would say, of course, that I'm a big believer in not knowing too much about a film before you watch it. That's my preference. However, I will say, for those of you who I think a general comment that we've gotten is that because of the nonlinear style of the film, people have a certain expectation that the movie is going to change at a certain point in terms of the editing style. And it does not. It continues to be edited that way throughout the duration of the film. But you do get used to it.
There are a couple of stories I'm going to echo. T promised a couple of stories. We showed the first cut for a select group of friends who we wanted to get notes on before we moved forward, and one of the reactions was, I realized about 10 minutes in, oh, this is going to go on for the entire film, and you just have to get used to kind of the style of cutting back and forth between episodes. And then I recently read a review where it's like, you really have to pay attention watching this film, which the reviewer kind of made it sound like that was a criticism. But to me, that was like, well, yeah, I would think that you would have to pay attention to it. So yeah, I think the nonlinear style, you might not be used to it, but it doesn't take long before you get used to it. And I think then you kind of appreciate why it's being used. So.
Preference is that you pay attention to the film.
Yeah.
It's our preference.
It shouldn't be too much to ask, right? But that is worth saying, though, because we are, and especially right after the corona, we find ourselves multitasking at home, and when we should be paying attention to the screen. So I guess it is worth saying that it's you should pay attention, because it is nonlinear, and so
it will help if you pay attention. Yes.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to say it, but we're going to say it anyway. Yeah, and this is going to be fun. So after we're done, we're going to do a Q&A so people can submit questions, and we're going to tell some fun stories, and or you guys are going to tell fun stories. I'm just going to be the talking monkey that asks about the fun stories.
Well, I mean, a talking monkey's got to have some pretty great stories, Paul.
I invite you to tell some fun stories too, Paul.
You're a talking monkey? I want to hear some stories about that.
This talking monkey does have some pretty fun stories.
Right.
Great.
Because here I am deep in the heart of Texas, where AMFM magazine is. And there, as you know, it's a little bit more open than some parts of the country. So it's a little wild out here.
Okay. You've run into other talking monkeys, maybe?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
All right.
We may move this Q&A pool side later if you really want to make it interesting.
Sounds great.
It's the pool side, pizza party, 1 hour outcall.
Oh, awesome.
That sounds great, right?
Sounds
awesome.
pretty good. That sounds pretty good.
I wish I would have known that earlier. I would have brought my bathing suit.
Well, there's some things, we are on camera after all. Now this is going to be so much fun. And now it's 5:15, and or wherever you are. But we're going to start the film. So however you choose to watch it, just go and watch it. Let's stream it, and then we're going to reconvene right here afterwards, and we're going to learn a little bit more about this very, very special film. So everybody log on, check it out, and we'll see you right after the film.
Are we doing a
or during the film?
Or during the film, yes.
Are we commenting throughout the film?
That is entirely up to you guys. If you'd like to do that, I think that's kind of fun. And I've heard that mentioned. Or, I guess people can zone us out, if you will. Or they.
That's my expectation was that we were gonna, we would start it. We would have, kind of a countdown, and then everybody would start the film at the same time. And then we just kind of comment on it as the film's actually rolling. If that's
I've started the film. Do I need to go back? Okay.
I have not started the film.
All right. So let's do a countdown here, everybody.
All right.
And those that want to, watch it along with us, great. And if not, you feel free to put your entire focus on the film. But this is something special. This is our live watch party. So we hope that you will watch it with us and comment along with us. So what should we do? A 15-second countdown? Is everybody?
I think, a talking monkey giving a 10-second countdown, I think is more, then we all hit play at the same time.
Sounds good. Well, if everyone's got their links ready, I'm gonna do exactly the same thing here, and we're going to get. Let's see. All right.
The film is a 1-hour outcall.
Yes.
Not to be confused with 1 hour alcohol.
No, I've had people be confused with that. They were excited about that film or the prospect.
Okay, so let's do the 10-second countdown. If you guys are ready, are you ready?
Yep.
All ready.
All right, here we go, everybody. I'm on the link, and I hope you are as well. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we are, 1 hour alcohol.
All right. Don't see anything. Here we go. Sophisticated Rogue. Is that what everybody else is seeing?
That's what we're seeing.
All right. Well done.
Now, T, talk about this.
Are you hearing this?
We all have it on mute, and then you can talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just wondering if you're hearing it through my...
But, that's why we all have it on mute.
No. I'm asking if you can hear the movie through my...
I'm hearing it, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm hearing it as well, but I guess I was just wondering if it's my... Okay. I'm still hearing it, but that's not mine. I turned the volume down. Anyway, so what was I? What did you want me to talk about?
Well, I wanted you to talk about the stock footage from San Francisco, but that ship might have sailed.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. I don't think that that's all that interesting, and I think that Sam probably remembers more about the stock footage than I do.
Found it on a stock footage site.
Right.
There you go.
I guess my point was those were the only two stock. It was very rare that we had to use stock footage.
Yeah.
Yes. So this was all shot in downtown LA. We also shot everything that takes. So the movie takes place between roughly 8 p.m. and 9:30 p.m. on Thursday nights for a year. And what we did was we basically shot day for night. So everything you see here, except for this, the parts that you see that are outside, so, the door shots and the outside shots of her sort of walking up the steps, those are at night, but everything else, like this, is shot during the day. All of these scenes are shot during the day, and what we did was we blacked out the windows at the location 606, and we just lit it as if it were nighttime and just blocked out all the exterior daylight.
Got a question here from somebody has their phone notifications on. It's really loud.
It's not me.
That one is me. I apologize.
We got a question here about how did we find our female lead?
Got it. So Natalia Ochoa, who plays Esmeralda in the movie, we did I'll start it off and then Bill, you can finish it. So we did a casting session in Hollywood. I don't remember the name of the place. Bill, you probably do.
Hollywood Film and Casting.
Hollywood Film and Casting. And we had a few different, obviously it was a difficult role to cast. And we had a few different prospects that were really talented actresses. I didn't feel like any of them was perfect. I didn't really have that aha moment until we met Natalia, and Bill can tell the story of how we met Natalia.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, I kind of echo T's sentiments. We had some actresses who we were considering for Esmeralda, whom we liked, but we didn't feel that there was anybody who was perfect. The interesting thing is a few days before, we had actually cast another role, a smaller role, and the actress was very excited to work with us. All she wanted was to read the script. So I emailed her the script, and she emailed me 2 emails within the span of 5 minutes on a Friday afternoon. And the first one simply said, I've changed my mind. I'm not going to work on your movie. And the second email said, I feel I need to be honest with you. I think it's disgusting that you two are trying to slip a porno movie under the guise of a legitimate film. And if anyone knows my personality, they know that email basically had me convinced that the cops were going to be breaking down my door any moment. I was a little freaked out by this email. So I checked with some people because I was really kind of just disturbed. And I called my mother, and my mother said, I've read the script, and even though it's not my cup of tea, I don't think it's a porno movie. To which I was almost tempted to say, well, how would you know, Mom? And then I called my friend Kristen. And Kristen says it's not as bad as this woman's saying, but have you cast Esmeralda yet? And I said no. And she goes, well, what about my friend Natalia? And I texted her, and she came in on Monday, and she had the part by Tuesday. I mean, she blew both T and me away, and we were extremely lucky to find her. So.
Well, it was funny because Bill had said to me, typically after the casting sessions, Bill and I would go have coffee.
Right.
And we sort of powwow on what we thought about the different people who were auditioning for us. And Bill said to me, "Well, now when Natalia auditioned, Bill said to me afterwards, well, now we have a problem." And I said, I don't think we have a problem at all. I think we found our Esmeralda. I think we just solved the problem."
Right. That is what he said, and he was absolutely right. And I mean, it was 1,000 things went right to make this movie, but finding Natalia was top of the list, absolutely top of the list. So
yeah. So this light, that's my one of my favorite lighting achievements in this film. All those little things. So you see this light in the middle of the frame here. That I searched a long time to find that light, and we took it out of the box, and it did not have a plug on it. And I was determined to use that light. It was something that needed to be installed. So I basically called an electrician friend of mine, and he guided one of our crew members over the phone into connecting a plug onto the end of the wire so that it could be plugged into the wall so that we could use that light. So to me, those are little things that you don't know from watching a movie. You would never guess that there was so much that went into just having that one light on camera. Did we lose our moderator?
I think he's hanging out in the background.
Oh, there he is.
Yep. I'm right here.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you wanted to ask any questions or kind of.
Oh, sure, I can do that. I just figured, this is mostly you guys watching along with the movie, and it would just be me nodding my head. But I'll go ahead and moderate.
Well, however you want to do it. I mean, that's fine with me too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, I can certainly just sit here and talk all day long, but I don't know. I'd rather talk about something that you want to know, or that that the audience would want to know.
Well, absolutely. Well, let's talk about our lead, where you found her, and because she's great in this.
Oh, we just did that. We just covered that.
Sorry, I just had it on mute there for a second.
Oh no, that's right. We had a question come in, and that was the question. So apparently that's.
Yeah, we can talk about why we liked her so much and why she does such a great job. I mean, she's got an energy and a spirit which, quite frankly, is inspirational to me, and it was inspirational to me while we made the movie. I'm kind of in my head a lot, and I'm over analytical, and I'm not saying she's under analytical, but she has a positivity and a spirit that really kind of drew me out of my shell. Which is another way of saying that she liked to torment me, which gave her a great deal of pleasure, which I think was fine for the relationship between the two characters and good for the movie. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she did in real life. When she tells him to relax in the movie and it bothers him, that was based on real life.
Yes, she told me to relax constantly. She still does whenever we speak. She seems to enjoy it. So, God forbid I ever do start to relax. It's really going to derive her of a significant amount of happiness. So,
I feel like you have relaxed, Bill. I mean, that's just from my perspective.
You feel what, T? I'm sorry?
I feel like you have relaxed. I feel like that has happened.
I think that two things can be true. I feel that I have relaxed, and I feel that the journey is long and arduous. I feel there's a long way to go. So yeah, I'm working on it though. I'm working on it.
It's definitely a work in progress kind of thing, but yeah, for me, having been on this journey with you for years, I've noticed a difference. And Natalia has also been on this journey with us, but she hasn't been privy to all the behind the scenes working, and during editing and post and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of funny to see you guys interact now with that sort of jump in time where she's still kind of expecting you to be a certain way, and
I'm way less
relaxed.
I'm way less uptight than I was during shooting. So yeah, she hasn't seen my improvement. You're right.
You're right.
Well, let's talk about these locations where it was shot.
So it was shot in downtown LA at most of the bulk of this. So those are all Bill's books, by the way.
Yeah.
His bookshelf.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, don't write scripts that involve a lot of books because you're going to have to carry them.
We had them airdropped onto the location, which is where we spent the bulk of our budget. So it was this great location in downtown LA, this huge house that's owned by these two brothers. Mm-hmm. It's called Location 606, and it's just a fantastic location. But it is Skid Row adjacent. Mm-hmm. So we had to deal with a lot of noise issues from outside, and so it was challenging in that respect. But the location itself was great, and they're professionals too. So when you have a noise issue, they know who to call to get it taken care of. But yeah, there are a few shots in here where you can kind of hear in the background a little bit of, ambient street music.
Or a bus. I mean, and they're actually
Or sirens.
There's a shot where there's a bus in the background, and I actually think it works for the movie. I actually think it works pretty well. So yeah, but we would routinely get ready to start a take, and then have Jim go bus, homeless party. Shooting downtown was challenging at times. So,
Yeah. So I see a question. What was the most challenging scene to shoot? I would say logistically speaking, the most challenging scene was probably part of the opening sequence where we're looking at the door and it's jumping through time, and we see Bill's character Greg open the door several times, and it's kind of jumping through time in one shot. That was challenging logistically speaking. It took us 3 days to shoot that sequence. And of course, I had people, I don't think Bill or Sam, but there were definitely a few doubters who were like, you're going to get coverage of this, right? I mean, you're going to get other shots. And I said, no. I mean, this is so. I could feel a little bit of tension having the camera locked down in the same spot for 3 days. But I knew what I wanted. I knew I had a vision for it, and the logistical challenge of it is, well, you're jumping back and forth through time, so you got to do costume changes and hair and makeup changes during that time. So we basically shot it in order in that sense, and then Sam chopped it up as we were shooting. And the benefit of having Sam on set editing the film while we were shooting is that basically on the 4th day, I was able to look at a cut of that sequence and go, okay, great, it works. Because if it didn't work, then I would go to Plan B and get a bunch of coverage, but then that would have put us back. It would have, we wouldn't have been on schedule. I would have had to play catch up.
And that sequence was something that T was excited about very, very early on. Even in pre-production, he had this whole notion in his head as to what he was going to do. Ironically, given that I was anxious about a million different things on the film, I wasn't anxious about that. Maybe just because I was ignorant to everyone else being worried about it. I was like, all right, they're shooting this sequence. It makes perfect sense. So I didn't realize that the people were anxious about it. Thank goodness.
Well, luckily there weren't. We had a very tiny crew, so there weren't a whole lot of people to be anxious about it. And
right.
And I know that the other. What essentially was the other half of the crew, Jim,
right.
He wasn't anxious about it, so he never expressed that. He and I worked together so much that he never really questioned it. He just helped,
Well, and it brings up a very important point about your decision to have Sam in the editing, on set while we were shooting, which it made perfect sense to me at the time, and quite frankly, I don't understand why that's not done all the time. If and when I ever make another movie, that's my plan. I just thought it was. I had made the decision on my own, but I don't think T would have allowed me to look at the film while it was being cut or while we were shooting it. I don't think that would have been helpful for anybody. I think I was smart enough to recognize that. I did recognize the wisdom of having him on set. So, yeah.
I think that's becoming a more common thing now too, is having editors on set.
Yeah,
like you said, I don't know why you wouldn't do it.
Right.
I think mine froze here.
Your movie?
Yeah, my movie froze, so I don't even know where we're at. So at this point, I'm flying blind, but like I said, I can keep talking.
I'm at 16:45 right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's where I'm at too, but the picture isn't actually playing. So.
Oh.
We're at the sequence where they're on the couch and they have their first, on film, the first sexual interaction. It's leading up to that. Remember?
Oh, okay, great.
It's all coming back.
Well, obviously, I remember. I just am not seeing it. So, technical challenges of a live watch party. So,
and what would you say was the most surprising thing that you encountered? The challenge that you're just like, okay, well, we didn't see this coming.
I don't know. Maybe you guys see. I don't.
Well, I was in a car accident the first day of shooting.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
I did not foresee that. I had borrowed my friend's camper van to basically transport the books, the aforementioned books, and a lot of other props to the set for the first day of shooting. And I have a relative inexperience when it comes to driving camper vans, and didn't give a wide enough berth on a right turn, and kind of scraped the van against the car that was parked next to the entrance. That was the first day of shooting. That was before anything had happened. Yeah, that was unforeseen, and that didn't help my anxiety. It was a minor fender bender. I don't want to overstate it, but I mean, being in any sort of car accident is stressful. Being in a car accident in a friend's car is horrifying. And then you've got to get the first day of shooting on your micro budget film off without incident. Yeah, that was unforeseen. But I mean, I guess, now looking back on it, it's kind of in keeping with the independent film spirit, I guess. You just got to roll with that kind of stuff and deal with it. You're not going to stop. You cannot stop. Nothing stops you.
Yeah. I was going to say, as if you didn't have enough on your mind.
Well, right. I mean, I actually do think that we shot some scenes where we called them episodes, and it was the first episode between Greg and Esmeralda. And Greg is supposed to be nervous, and it wasn't that tough to be nervous and anxiety ridden after having been in a car accident. So yeah, I used it. I used it as fuel for my performance. So
we got a couple of questions here. I missed one here. What was the total filming time, start to finish?
I know that. Because it was a password.
Go for it.
It was a password of mine for a while. The dates: November 7th through December 5th, 2016, and we took Sundays off, and then Thanksgiving week we took Wednesday through Sunday off that week. So I think 25 days total shooting. Does that sound right, T?
That sounds about right. Yeah.
So yeah, we moved quick. We moved pretty quick. So.
Oh, here's another question from Annie Jeeves, who is our publicist, by the way. Little peek behind the curtain. How challenging is it to film intimacy? There's a lot that goes into it, for sure. I've done a fair amount of it in the films that I've made. So, the challenges are different in every movie. Obviously, you're working with different actors and actresses, and the scenes are different, obviously. Ironically enough, with this, let me just say the biggest thing is, in terms of shooting intimate scenes, is making everybody feel safe. Cast, crew, everybody. And those are things that really need to be worked out beforehand, in my opinion. I've heard nightmare stories from actresses where they weren't worked out beforehand, and the actress was put on the spot. And I'm saying actresses because that's what I've heard. I mean, I know that actors, it applies as well. But it's really important to have those conversations in private ahead of time. So we knew from the audition that Natalia was willing to do nudity, that she was comfortable with that. But then Natalia and I had a private conversation once we cast her after that, just to discuss sort of what the expectations were in terms of nudity, intimacy, and then there was a moment on set where we were shooting a scene. It's this. Well, I'm looking at this scene, but I may be on a different screen than you guys are because mine had frozen. But there's a shot where Natalia is on top of Bill, and for whatever reason, she got triggered, and we had to stop shooting. And she and I went into another room, and we just had a discussion about it. And she, for the most part, I just listened and, asked her, what it was that she was having an issue with, and how, what I could do to help her feel more comfortable. And really, I just sort of, as she puts it, I just kind of held space for her to allow her to have whatever feelings it was that she was having. And ultimately, she didn't feel like there was anything that needed to be changed. I did make adjustments, but she didn't feel that there was anything specific that needed to be changed. But it was really just about having that conversation, holding space for it, and then, making sure I did whatever she needed in order to feel comfortable with that scene in that moment. And I know that now a lot of films and TV shows have intimacy coordinators on set. This was done, when we shot this, it was 5 years ago. So things were a little bit different then. And I think that's a great idea to have intimacy coordinators on set. I mean, I've heard that people have had mixed experiences with that, but overall, I love that concept, because then you have a neutral person who's kind of a go-between between the director, the producers, and the performers.
Well, I mean, I can only, as someone who is not nearly as experienced as T is with shooting intimacy in movies, I can echo most of what he said, and then add something of my own. What was of primary importance to me, and I know it was important to T as well, is that everyone feel comfortable and nobody feel coerced or influenced or kind of or uncomfortable in any way. That would have been horrifying to me if anybody had felt that way. And I think the incident that T is describing is the way it's supposed to work. If somebody's uncomfortable, everybody stops, and then there's a conversation, and it's just like, well, what do we need to do in order to make sure everybody's comfortable before even proceeding 1 second? I think T was able to have that conversation. I was worried about it, and I was assured that it didn't have anything to do with me. It was just she just felt something in the moment, and I was very gratified to not only hear that, but I was gratified with how we all handled it, because that's something. I knew that I was writing a script that had these kind of themes and these elements in it, and I knew that we were making a movie where we would have these kind of discussions or kind of just situations where you're filming an intimate relationship, and it's very delicate. So it's absolutely essential that everybody handles it with utmost respect for everybody. I'm pretty proud of how we handled it, frankly. So I just like it. I think it's the way it's supposed to work, and I'm glad that it did. And I mean, it wasn't necessarily comfortable for me either, given that I was pretty new to it. The one story that I tell about that is T was rehearsing Natalia and me before we started shooting, and we did a scene, and T had both of us in our underwear because it was an intimate scene or whatever. T had to go off to do something, and it's just Natalia and I sitting on a bed just waiting, and I'm clearly just uncomfortable. I'm just clearly in my own head about what's going on, and Natalia just looked at me and she just smiled and she muttered, "You wrote it." So yeah, she was right. It's like, so, but I mean, that's another thing that was great about Natalia is being able to speak up for herself and make sure that she was comfortable and everyone was respectful, but she also made me more comfortable. So that was important. So.
Mm-hmm. And how close did you stick to the script as far as, was it pretty much word for word, or, being the writer and the star? I know some writers are a little bit more precious with every single word as it is on the paper, but I don't know if that's how it was this time or not.
They changed everything, Paul. They just butchered everything. They changed everything. No.
Bill is very precious about that, I will say. Natalia added what's that?
No, I was clarifying whether you said is or is not precious about it. I can be. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can be.
I remember one moment. Can I tell? Do you mind if I jump in, or do you want to answer first?
It's going to make me look bad. See, go ahead. Go nuts.
Well, Natalia's not here.
Okay.
Yeah. To bust your balls. So.
Right. So.
No, I don't think so. But it kind of answers the question,
Sure.
Which is, so toward the end of shooting, we shot the driving scenes. And there was one time where I had two actors. I don't think that scene has come up yet. It might have been hinted at. But the two actors are in a car. And there was really not enough room. It really needed to be a sound person, a camera person, which was me, and then the two guys, in the front seat. And so Bill couldn't be there. He wasn't allowed. And so I allowed them. So, they were doing the lines and it just felt a little stiff. So I said, you know what, why don't you guys improvise and then eventually get around to the lines. Obviously the lines are important, but I want you guys to take your time. I want you to improvise. I want you to kind of shoot the shit. And then when it feels organic, just flow into the lines and then out of the lines and then keep improvising. And they did that, and I feel like it worked. Now that scene, ironically, has been cut out of the movie, but even when I go back and I look at the scene that was cut out of the movie, it works. It feels very natural to me. And, but we had the luxury of having a little bit more time at that point. So in terms of the shooting schedule. And like I said, we were toward the end. So we get back in the car, and I know we've been gone for a little while, and I could see that Bill is concerned. And he did say to me, he took me aside and he said, you are sticking to the script, right? I mean, you're not just having them improv, just random stuff. And I said, no, we got it.
Yeah, that's been an education for me too. Look, I still think the script is important. I still think that it's regardless of where you end up, I do think it's the starting point. And I do think one of the things that I like about the script, and I think T liked about the script, is kind of the naturalistic dialogue that we kind of landed on. That's not to say if something makes it better, I'm opposed to it just because it's not mine. I don't think I'm that rigid or whatever, but I do. That's been a maturation process as well. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I was coming off of doing 3 improvisational feature films, so for me, I was used to improvisation, and it was, I wanted the challenge of working with something that was scripted. Mm-hmm. I do think that, and Bill wrote a great script, so it was great in that sense. It was a great opportunity for me. At the same time, I know that, through a rehearsal process and through memorizing the lines, it can become sort of mechanical. And I think it's okay to have a little bit of improv or have, different techniques in order to just sort of give it a little bit of room to breathe. And so that was an interesting challenge for me too, is to find those moments of, okay, when can we kind of improv a little bit? When can we just sort of let the material breathe a little bit. And hopefully I found the right balance. I don't know, Bill, maybe you can speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, basically getting back to your original question, Paul, I mean, I think for the most part, the script is what I wrote. I think here's where I will say the changes came, and for the better, absolutely for the better. I mean, I wrote a nonlinear script and I broke it up, and then we shot it, and Sam cut it together for the first time, and then we watched it, and Sam was the one who said, he goes, I don't think we're telling the story in the most effective way. And I don't want to speak for Sam, but he said, I'm sure he'll speak to this, but I mean, he's like, I think if we rearrange some stuff, it'll be more effective. And T's the director, so ultimately it was T's decision to trust Sam to go off and take a crack at it. But I wholeheartedly agreed, and I think T was like, Sam, take your best shot at it, and Sam came back with the second cut, which was greatly improved. So, I mean, the script means many things. It doesn't just mean the dialogue; it means the order of scenes. And I mean, it's a good thing because it's a nonlinear script. So in a way, you can have whatever order you want. But I thought that was a very good move and a very trusting move on T's part and on my part, I guess, to give Sam the freedom to go take his own shot at it. And I think it really helped the movie.
Yeah, and actually, the scene that we're on right now is one of my favorite examples of changes that came in the editing process, because this scene where we're cutting back and forth between the girls in the bathroom and then Natalia and Bill in bed, I don't think it was originally in the script that way. I think it was meant to be one long scene of the girls in the bathroom.
Yes.
And I tried putting these together because I felt like they just so naturally went together. And it's one of my favorite sequences in the movie now.
I just want to say that it's a total travesty that Oscars just happened and Sam Hook was not nominated for Best in Editing.
I agree.
Too much.
Yeah, I think Sam did a fantastic job.
I agree.
I wrote a script that was nonlinear, so a challenge to an editor, I guess, in a way. And not only did Sam execute my vision, and he improved on it. I mean, he made it better.
Yeah. He took it to a whole other level. He makes connections in the movie that we couldn't really recognize were there until we saw them edited together with Sam.
Yeah. We have a question that came in over here from Christine and says, ask them what they want the audience to take away from the story.
Oh, well, now I don't know, T. You got to tell them, T. Come on.
I gotta give it to him, huh?
You got to give your answer.
Thanks for the question, Christine. So number one, I want people to be entertained. I would like them to be entertained. That would be mission accomplished. Another couple of things is I would like for people to feel like they've seen something, they've had an experience that they haven't had in watching a movie before. So this is a brand new experience. It's like nothing you've ever seen. I would love for people to feel that way. I would love for the movie also to stick with you and have an effect on you in whatever way that is. I think that's personal for everyone, which I think is part of the great thing about movies and cinema, is that it's a personal experience, how you watch a movie. So those are the main things that I'm hoping that you'll come away with.
Yeah, I mean, I think T makes a good point when he didn't say it as bluntly as he's told me, but he likes, and I agree with him. I'm joking. I agree with him. It's like this is a film where I want viewers not only to be entertained, but I want them to kind of think about what they've seen, and maybe have some of their preconceived notions turned on their head. And I think we've made a film which you think about after you've seen it. And we've made a film where the characters are complicated and ambiguous, and the answers aren't necessarily easy. And I like that different people might arrive at different conclusions to it. So I just, I don't want to say something like I want the film to challenge you, but I do hope that it kind of makes you think about what's right and what's wrong and who's good and who's bad, and there's a lot of gray area in the film, and I kind of like that. So that's what I would hope.
I think something else that you had asked if the movie is true to the script, other than a few F words that Natalia threw in there, it's pretty true to what Bill wrote. But I also wanted to add that something that you wouldn't know from watching it. So the film cuts back and forth in time, right? Well, Bill, instead of writing a script that was sort of choppy, jumping back and forth in time, Bill wrote each night in its entirety. And we filmed a good deal of, didn't shoot all of it, we filmed a good deal of what he wrote. So essentially, what was it, like 300 pages, something like that? No?
Yeah, I mean, what happened was I tried to write it just as one script, bouncing back and forth, and it really wasn't working. So I kind of realized that I had to bite the bullet and basically write all 7 hours in their entirety. So that's basically 420 pages, which I then kind of pastiched together into a full-length movie script. Now, obviously, you're writing 7 episodes of 60 minutes long. You know that there's a lot of stuff that you're not going to use, and that part's okay. And there's a lot of repetitive dialogue that you're not going to use more than once. But we had a lot of footage, and what T did was, we called them heads and tails. What he would do is he would shoot like a few lines before what would be in the shooting script, and then a few lines after the scene in the shooting script had ended, and it really pastiched well together. But we also had a lot of extra footage because of that, and I think T used some of it. Perhaps not a great deal, but definitely we had some extra riches from which to choose.
Sam, I think, would be able to speak to that more than me, actually.
Well, I mean, when I was going through and rearranging things, I definitely was looking at the full script for each episode. I kind of broke every episode down into little tiny micro scenes, and was rearranging all of those just to try to get a better narrative flow to everything. So really kind of anything was on the board in terms of what I would use if I felt like something had a really strong emotional performance with it. Also, I made sure that was on the table. I just wanted to get all the best stuff in there.
You know what? Go ahead, Paul. Sorry.
There is another interesting one that came in that says, so essentially it's an exploration of the gray areas in relationships. What is right and what is wrong is different for different people.
That's interesting, because I was just about to address that. I was just about to speak to that. Something that and it's something that's very gratifying for me, is we had a cast and crew screening of the film when it was finished. And, you're living the movie for a few years, and it's hard to have a perspective on it fully. And then you show it to other people, and they have a completely different perspective. And that's one of the perspectives, is that, that there are these gray areas. And one thing that was gratifying for me is, we went out for drinks afterwards with some of the people that were, that had just watched the film for the first time, who were not part of the making of the film, that were not in the movie, or, they weren't directly involved. And I witnessed 2 people heatedly arguing, whether or not Greg, Bill's character, is a bad person, or if he's a good person that's doing bad things. And for me, I'm not going to answer that question, because again, I think that is a personal experience for each person that's watching it. But it's incredibly gratifying to sit in and just be a fly on the wall while 2 people are. I mean, it was a pretty heated argument. I don't want to say that I had to physically separate them, but it was going in that direction. I'll just say that.
Well, and that's like talking
I'm being
about
facetious, of course. But.
Talking talking about, well, it would have been better if they had come to blows. Frankly, it's a better anecdote. But I mean, that's what I was talking about before. Is the good people doing bad things. I was saying. I think I was talking about that for years while we were making the movie. That's kind of the way I felt. It's like I want your reaction to be judgment on a certain character, and then kind of question that judgment and what he or she doing really wrong, and maybe you're thinking about it in the wrong way. I wanted that complexity, and I wanted that ambiguity, and that's extremely gratifying to hear that people were thinking about the movie that way. And I've had people write me long emails, and some of them are significantly too much information emails where they're kind of delving into their own intimacy issues and the relationships that they're dealing with in their lives. And I mean, the fact that it's making or makes people think that way or that deeply about either the movie or themselves that's a success in my view. And I also think the film is gratifying in the sense that I think that it's one of those where you can watch it multiple times and get meaning out of it and get different things out of it every time. So.
That's what we hope.
Yeah. What's been, maybe, people have all kinds of ideas about, what they're saying. And sometimes it depends on their life experience or what they've been through, or maybe they've been through on either side of this situation. But what's one of the stranger things that someone said to you that maybe they took something from this that you're like, oh, wait a second, I didn't see that, is how someone would take it?
Well, I've had more people than I would have liked share their own escort stories with me. I'm not sure I should be surprised by that, and in fact, I'm not. But perhaps I was just willfully blind to that. But I've also had people talk about their divorce or their parents' divorce, mm-hmm. or their children and their relationships with their children. I mean, that's kind of not gratifying, because sometimes you're hearing people talk about their pain, which I don't take enjoyment in that, but the notion that something that I've written causes people to think about that kind of stuff is gratifying. I guess I need to give myself some more respect and kind of recognize that I might make something and T executed it and Sam executed it, but that I wrote something which has levels or has depth to it. Perhaps I should have given myself more credit at the beginning.
We have a question from Lexi, who says, where did the inspiration for the script come from, Bill?
Thank you for your question, Lexi. Well, the inspiration was part logistical and then part kind of thematic. The logistical part is I lived for a couple of years in a loft in downtown Los Angeles, this big open loft. And I dreamed of making a micro budget or a movie all my life. So I'm like, this loft would really be a great place to shoot something in. What could I write that could take place in this apartment? Unfortunately, I didn't get my act together quick enough to film it in that apartment, and I had moved by the time I finished the script. But that logistical, this is location we can use. I mean, when you're making independent movies, when you're making micro budget films, you're using everything that's available to you. You're eating the entire buffalo. So that was part of it. And then thematically, my parents got divorced when I was a teenager, so that part of it was relevant to me. And when I wrote the script, I was a man in my mid-40s, and I had dated women who were younger. So it's just that middle-aged man, younger woman thing is more complicated than perhaps you think it is when you're 18 or you're 20. So those things were interesting for me to try and explore. So I guess that's kind of where, that's the genesis. So.
Mm-hmm.
Silence. I stop the conversation, did I? So.
Well, again, why a call girl and a client?
Pardon me?
But why a call girl and her client?
Because that relationship not only has been done a lot, but it hasn't. I don't think it's often done with nuance. So that part was interesting to me as a challenge. And again, I wanted to kind of have, let's say, a typical viewer kind of hear the pitch of the movie and have an instant kind of visceral call girl and her client, and then watch the movie and have that perception or have that idea that they had in their head kind of turned upside down. I had friends of mine read the script, who, I mean, I don't want to spoil it or whatever, but they were upset about the ending, but not in the way that I expected. Perhaps when we get there, I'll chime back in as to what they were upset about. But that to me was a success because it had changed their perception of what the relationship was throughout the course of the script. So I wanted to write a strong female character, and I wanted to write a story where you would have a preconceived notion and then have that turned on its head.
There's also a big change that we haven't talked about is the original ending to the movie and the script is not the ending that ended up in the film.
That is true. So, yeah. So, It's this complicated thing because I imagine that most people who are watching this maybe have seen the movie already, but I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it for the first time, although that's kind of a weird way to watch a movie for the first time with the filmmakers talking over it. I don't know.
Right.
It's like eating your dessert before dinner. I watched the movie with the DVD commentary first. And
or more like taking your dessert and mashing it up with your dinner and eating them both.
Right.
Together.
Oh, yeah. Very good. Yeah. So we'll talk about it. We can address. I don't know. Should we go ahead and just spoil things? I mean, I don't know. What do we think?
Paul, what do you think?
Yeah, you know what? I would say if someone's listening to us and they're not watching the movie for the first, they're probably not watching the movie for the first time. So I think it's safe to say that you could go ahead and talk about it here. And if not, go back to the movie.
Okay, fair warning. If you are watching this for the first time, spoiler alert's coming. So put us on mute for 5 minutes or whatever.
And by the way, if you're watching it again, thank you so much for being a fan of it.
Yes.
Well, Sam brings up a good point. The original ending of the film, there's a scene where Shannon and Anna, Esmeralda, go back to their apartment. And the last shot of the movie is basically Anna looking at a picture, the same picture that's right on screen or was just on screen now of Greg and Shannon as a little girl. So the inference that you're supposed to take is that Anna's been aware the whole time of who Greg is. So she's known about it the whole time. And that's the ending that I wrote. And we watched the first cut, and the notes that people gave us were that's confusing. It didn't really read that way. And more importantly, a friend of mine who we all respected goes, what actually happens when she doesn't know who he is more dramatic than if she's known the whole time, which is an excellent point. And my response was, well, I just wanted to make sure that I wrote a strong female character, and I had her kind of knowing the whole time to make her kind of stronger at the end. And everyone, including the women in the room, were like, you don't need to worry about her being a strong character. She's plenty strong. So we cut the ending. And they're, sometimes I'd be interested to see it with the ending to see how it read or whatever. And a couple of people who had read early drafts of the script were like, I like the ending. But what I was alluding to, by the way, I think it was an excellent decision to cut the ending. So that's, I think that's been part of my growth as a writer, is recognizing when something makes the film better, you have to be open to changing it. But I've had female friends of mine read the script before we shot it, and they were disappointed that Greg and Esmeralda don't end up together, which on the one hand is wrong, but on the other hand tells me that I accomplished my mission, which is to create a relationship which is strong between these two, which makes it confusing enough that you're disappointed that they don't end up together. I thought that was a success, but that's what I was alluding to before. So.
Did you talk to some women who had been in this profession before you wrote this? And then I'm curious to know if you've heard from any who've done this before afterwards, just for accuracy's sake or for them sharing their stories.
Not too much. I mean, I've heard there have been a couple of women who have commented on it, and a couple of women who commented on it while I was writing it before we shot it. And they didn't have any real serious objections to how things were depicted. what was more important to me, again, was that the profession was treated with respect, and it wasn't just kind of a knee-jerk judgmental portrayal. And that feedback I got was pretty good. So I felt I was on the right track. I'm sure everybody's experience is different, but I was pleased with how it read to those individuals. And again, it's a very small sample size, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's interesting that the profession itself has actually become more and more, I guess, accepted or mainstream, and we've even seen, if you've read reports, quite a bit of an uptick during the Corona times too, which is interesting.
It's not surprising, frankly, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize that.
Mm-hmm.
That's why this movie is such a blockbuster.
Well, what's interesting, you said earlier that this was shot 5 years ago?
Yeah, we started production
2016. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the journey to get it out for us to be able to see it now, I'm sure people would want to know, like, why exactly it took so long.
I think.
Well, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, with any movie, I mean, even in Hollywood movies, it takes
yeah.
at least a year and a half, between the time they start shooting and the time that the film is finished. And animated movies, I used to work in animation. Animated movies take 3 years, and they're on a tight schedule, So I think generally people don't understand that just, movies just generally take a long time. And for us, this was actually pretty quick. So typical movie is about a year and a half, and that's the Hollywood movie where they have, all the money that anyone would need to make a movie. And ours was about 2 years from the time we started shooting until it was finished.
Yeah, that's right. And then it was a year on the festival circuit. So there's that, and then 6 or 7 months after we got a distributor before it was just 5 months between getting a distributor and getting it released. So.
I also think it's just because of the small micro budget aspect of this movie. I don't think was anybody's like dedicated full-time job for 2 years either while we were working on it. So it was whenever we could find time to all get together to work on it, and whenever I would have some time to go back and address editing notes and things like that. So time just ended up building on itself. So it took longer than it probably would have if we just focused on it for like 2 months at a time.
That's what money affords you, is it affords you the ability to pay people enough that they don't have to do anything else, that they can dedicate it to budget to me is, that's why I would like more budget, not for really anything else aside from the fact that you could just hire people and then that's their one focus, and that would streamline things a bit. But yeah, I mean, it was a process. And the one area where I've maybe I would shorten the festival. Maybe I would have tried to move on, quicker from the festival. But aside from that, I think it took the length of time it took. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in my experience, a year or a year and a half on the festival circuit is about right. I mean, just from the other films that I've been involved with, and I got to say credit to Bill, because he's really the one that kept the train moving, kept it on its tracks, and kept us moving forward.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I asked a lot of family members and friends to help. So I was kind of obsessed with just getting to the top of the mountain. So, and then there was a point where you want to see it to the end, right? So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, if Bill hadn't kept pushing, it would have taken even longer, trust me.
There was a point, I don't think T will mind me saying this, but there was a point where T was like, "Yeah, I know you're not going to stop calling me." Okay, so it's like, "No, I will not." So.
Oh, did I don't remember that.
Yeah. At the Valley Film Festival, I was just like, "Well, I just wasn't going to stop calling T," and T's like, "Yep, I recognize that now. Yep, okay." So, but I mean, I really wish, it's just it's a shame, not a shame. It's life. It is what it is. But it's like everyone Sam, T, and me, we all should have. What I would love for all of us is to get paid well enough by filmmakers or by making films that we don't have to worry about anything else but our films. Mm-hmm. Hopefully that'll happen someday. So we'll see. So, I mean, both Sam and T are more than talented enough to deserve that. So.
Now, you had talked about some of the other films that you had worked on. For those that have seen this or they're watching this, and like, wow, let's see what else these guys have done. What else can they check out right now?
Carbuncle was my first feature film, and that's available at carbunclemovie.com. There are no K's in Carbuncle, by the way. A lot of people spell it with a K. There's no K. CARBUNCLE movie.com. And Bill has a cameo in that.
Yes.
A young William Norrit.
A young, considerably thinner me. Yeah. So.
Less gray too.
Significantly less gray.
But not less handsome. I will say that.
Wow, gee whiz, T, you flatter. I have a novel that I published a few years ago entitled "The Vanilla Gigolo Prescription," which either prompts you to think that's an awesome title or prompts you to think that's a horrible title. One or the other. There's no in between. You can find that on Amazon. It's available electronically. So. Sam's got another film. Sam?
Yeah, another film released last year called The Dark Divide. Mm-hmm. It's on Amazon, darkdividefilm.com to find everywhere that it is. It stars David Cross and Deborah Messing. David Cross plays a lepidopterist who's a person that studies butterflies and moths. And it's about him going on this kind of transformative hike in the Gifford Pinchot National Forest up in Oregon and Washington. Yeah.
And T, did I see that you were in that?
That's right. Wow, you did your homework.
Yeah.
Yes, I did some looping work on that. Tom and I are friends, the director, Tom Putnam, writer, director, producer. And actually, I think you can hear my daughter and her friends more than you can hear me because they went and did looping on it too, which was like the greatest experience of their young lives. They were just so excited to be in a movie. And they haven't seen it yet because it's my daughter, her best friend, and then another friend who they were born around the same time and we were neighbors and I'm friends with her parents. Anyway, family friends. And so they came in and sang this Girl Scout song. And my daughter and her BFF, because of COVID, haven't been able to get together enough to be able to watch the film together, and they refuse to watch it apart. So they haven't actually seen their part in the movie yet, but I've assured them that they are. Their voices are distinctly featured.
Sam had two films nominated at the recent Film Threat Magazine's award this ceremony. So I mean, Sam's got it going on. So yeah.
Sam nominated and won.
Yes, two winning films.
Sorry, my bad.
Hey,
two.
Yeah, that's something we should just mention. 1 Hour Outcall won Best Drama.
Yeah.
And Dark Divide won Indie Movie of the Year at that award. So pretty gratifying.
Yeah.
And Sam is the common link. So
Yep.
Sam is the glue that holds everything together. I'm losing light, so I'm going to go get some more.
Mm-hmm. Well, tell us a little bit about the films that you're working on right now.
I've got about half a dozen things that might see the light of day this year. There's a handful of documentaries that I've been working on and off for the past 6-7 years. That's kind of about the length of time I've found that it takes to finish a documentary is about 7 years. So hopefully they will come out later this year. One that I'm really excited about is called The United States of Insanity. It's about the rap duo, the Insane Clown Posse. Mm-hmm. So back in 2011, the FBI actually labeled all of their fans as a criminal gang. and it was causing a lot of issues for their fans. They were getting harassed by police, losing jobs. Some people lost custody of their children. So the band actually sued the FBI and the Department of Justice to try to get that changed. So that's what the film's about.
It's a great documentary.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that must have been pretty interesting to sit there with them and hear just how crazy that story was, because I'm sure it's a lot more complicated than you thought.
Yeah, and they tell it in a really fun, animated way. So as you would expect from guys that have their faces painted like clowns for most of their life.
Oh yeah, that's
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's a great documentary.
Oh, that's wonderful. And I gotta know, of course, a lot of people watching along right now, or maybe you've seen the film, know just how special our lead is here, and we're watching her on screen. What does she have coming up next, or have you been in touch about what her next projects are?
She, for the most part, has kind of taken a break from acting. Yeah, she's focusing more on life coaching, which is really fitting for her. She's very intuitive. She's very intelligent.
She's an empath. She's an empath, and she's doing a lot of work on Instagram and coaching personal clients with that. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, we could probably all use a life coach right about now after being stuck inside for so long, right?
Well, when she told me that that's what she was doing, the first thought in my mind was literally, that's perfect. So yeah, I think, I might hire her myself. So I don't know.
She has a podcast too, right?
Yeah.
She has a podcast. Yeah.
Hmm.
And she's highly trained at it. She's been doing it for years. So she's been doing it the whole time that she's been acting as well.
Oh,
so it's not something that she just kind of jumped into or decided to do. She's been doing it for years. She's just doing it full time now.
Oh, that's great. And it is kind of interesting that a lot of us have been inside and we've been watching movies, and and I think it kind of got to a point where we started appreciating our filmmakers and musicians and everybody else a little bit more, because that's really kind of the glue that held us together. A lot of us together is when we're stuck inside. So it's nice that we have these things to keep us entertained, because some people are worried they're going to run out of content, but no, I think there's plenty of content, right?
And now that they took The Office off of Netflix, you're forced to watch new stuff. So yeah.
Look, that is not to say that I just want to give a little bit of perspective here. That's not to say that the job that we're doing is nearly as important as the healthcare workers and everybody else that's sort of been getting us through this time. Our job is fun. To be able to entertain people is a great honor.
And
I'd be doing it anyway. So
what did you guys watch during the quarantine? Did you catch anything that was special to you?
I 2 years ago, the year before the pandemic, I made a New Year's resolution where I forbid myself from rewatching anything like that I had already seen, and I wound up watching a lot of movies that I had never seen, a lot of classics, a lot of gaps in my education, a lot of foreign films that I had never seen. But then when the pandemic hit, I reverted back to my old ways, and I need to get back to my pledge to just watching nothing but new things. But I really enjoyed Mank, for instance. Mank was something that I really dug a great deal. It's like kind of you have no excuse not to expand your horizons, when you're kind of a captive audience. So.
Oddly enough, I'm a moviegoer, so I prefer to go to the movies to see movies. So likewise. I may be one of the, Sam and I may be the exception to people consuming more content in quarantine. But I certainly did watch more TV shows. Like I
Yeah.
watched The Boys. I enjoyed The Boys quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched a lot of documentaries, and docuseries on Netflix, which I am typically not the audience for documentaries, but there are so many great documentaries.
Mm-hmm. But it also kind of probably made you appreciate, I know that film festival road was pretty long, but it probably also made you glad that you did it, because it's hard to see anything in the theaters then and even now. We're not getting as many movie screenings. We're getting a lot of links sent to us.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we kind of got that festival run in just under the wire before this all started.
Yeah,
true.
I came back from the Blue Ridge Film Festival, which was in Georgia. I came back from that the first weekend in March, and then a week later is when everything started to hit. So,
and then CineQuest, I guess we were
right.
They had finished the first week of CineQuest, and then had to shut it down. And then we ended up doing CineQuest, their online film festival.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I love the film festival audiences. They always have such really, really interesting questions.
Yeah.
And of course, there's always that one person in the audience that always has to ask specifics about the budget. And there's like, well, what do you like?
That's usually the first question that I was asked at the festivals we went to. Like the first one, Block Island, Rhode Island, I went. T and Sam couldn't go, but Natalia actually and Kristen Carey went. And the first question I got was about the budget. And then afterwards, I was at the bar, and this 24-year-old woman came up, and for a moment I was excited, and then she sat down. She's like, "I really loved your movie. I want to talk more about the budget." I'm like, okay, all right. That's not what I expected. And then I was in Georgia for the Blue Ridge Film Festival with my dad, and I didn't even know that they were going to have me do a Q&A. And then afterwards, the host was like, "Well, the filmmaker's in the audience," and I came out, and the first question was like, "How'd you make the film look so good for so little money?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then it's a funny story, because walking back from that with my father, he's like, "Don't talk about the budget. Don't talk about the budget. Don't talk about the budget," which is funny only in the sense that for years, T would say, "Don't talk about the budget. Don't talk about the budget. Don't talk about the budget." And I got to be honest with you, I'm damn proud of the budget. I'm damn proud of like how good the film looks for how little money we had. And that's a testament to T and Jim and Sam. But I mean, I kind of want to talk about it, but sometimes there's a mixed message. Sometimes you're not supposed to talk about it. I'll bore real quick because I really like the story. T might not remember this, but like when I asked him to direct, or when I finally got around to asking him to direct, I asked him how much the film was going to cost to make, and he thought about it for a second. And he goes, $25,000, which turned out not to be true, but not it's neither here nor there for the studio.
Wasn't because of me.
No, it certainly was not because of T. And that's not the point of the story. The point is I responded by going, "Okay, so we've got to make $25,000 look like $1 million." And T goes, "Whoa, we can't do that. We can't do that." So like managing my expectations like right away. He goes, "We can make $25,000 look like $125,000." And I was like, "Okay, that sounds reasonable. Good. We'll make $25,000 look like $125,000." So I was driving with Jim late during production, and I told that story to him. It was actually during editing. We had looked at a couple of cuts. I'm sorry. And I go, "Yeah, well, T says we got to make $25,000 look like $125,000. And Jim goes, "That's bullshit. This film looks like $500,000 easy." And he's right. So it's like, I kind of want to scream about the budget, but my father gets mad, and sometimes T gets mad too. So I don't know.
Well, budgets are a funny thing though, because people ask what your budget is, and then there are certain assumptions made around what the budget is, right? So usually when people are talking about budgets, they're talking about the amount of money that it costs to get the film in the can. But the reality is you have the cost of what it took to get the film in the can, and you got people who are working, for very little or for free.
Right.
So there's the unspoken cost of that.
Sure.
And then
sweat equity, yeah.
Sweat equity, right? Yeah, and then you get into post production, and then you're adding to that budget because you're still it costs a certain amount of money in post, and then you get into distribution, and the distributor requires a certain amount, and the sales agent requires a certain amount. And so budgets are kind of a funny thing. And, I don't necessarily want somebody coming up to me and saying, hey, I heard you made this movie for $25,000, come make this space sci-fi, shoot 'em up epic for $25,000. You're the guy that does that, right?
Right.
And
let me be clear. I understand why T and my father don't want me talking about the budgets. It makes perfect sense. But part of me wants to scream it from the mountaintop how we got a film looking so great for so little. And there's another story about that, like kind of in line with how we wound up casting Natalia. We had a week of auditions at this place in Hollywood, and that place was free if we auditioned their students, which was no problem. So then at the end of the week, T and I go, let's grab dinner and talk about this. And we went to this like Italian place on Santa Monica Boulevard, and we talked about casting for a while. And we're walking to our cars afterwards, and T goes, by the way, if we're making an independent movie and we have to make sure that we watch every dollar, we can't be having dinners like that. So that's the last time you take me out for like an Italian dinner if we're going to keep this budget reasonable. So yeah, no, T is very good at making a dollar last, and he's very good at making something look amazing for a little amount of money. So
thanks, Bill. Paul, you were going to ask a question?
Well, I was just going to say, I think it's very good to discuss it, especially if you're proud of it, because it's honestly that I'm surprised by the budget, and I think other filmmakers will watch this and they'll think, you know what, maybe I could do it, and so it's inspiring, and so you would probably tell other filmmakers, yeah, you could do it, because. And you could do it on a skeleton crew and with very little money. If you want to tell that story, you're going to be able to tell your story, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's great, and that does make me feel good when, because when this woman came up to me in Rhode Island, and when this guy kind of like he was like affronted, he's like, "How'd you make this film look so good?" It's like, all right, well, hopefully it gives hope to other filmmakers. I just want to interject here. We're in what we used to call the restaurant sequence. Like you have the apartment sequence and now you have the restaurant sequence, which I really like for a number of reasons. And part of it is because after spending 2/3 of the movie cooped up with Esme and Greg, now it's kind of expanded into this more kind of normal scene with more actors. And I also love the restaurant that we were able to use. It's called Michelli's in Studio City. That people recognize. LA people will go, is that Michelli's? How'd you shoot in there? And then the other note I want to make before I forget, I don't know who's watching it with subtitles. I'm watching it with subtitles. I did those subtitles. I did all of them. It was a painstaking Herculean task that took me 3 weeks. When we got distribution, they told us that we had to have closed captioning, and I priced it out to a couple of firms in Los Angeles, and they quoted me prices where I'm like, I'm unemployed, I'll do it myself. So, I just want my proper respect for the quality of the subtitles. There you go.
And I will also ask for the proper respect for having lit that entire restaurant scene with one China ball.
There you go.
as referenced earlier. Now, of course, there was a lot of ambient light in Michelli's that we used, but all the actors are lit by one China ball.
Wow. Well, the closed captioning is very important, and I know my mom does not like to watch films that the subtitles are not available because it's hard of hearing in one ear. So there are people who definitely appreciate it, and it probably helps a whole lot for some people who are just like, oh, I can't hear what they're saying. So.
Unfortunately, it's one of the things I'm most proud of. I don't know if I can explain that. I went through this frame by frame.
Bill, can you explain about the wrapping?
The wrapping paper, yeah. Well, again, we're spoiling it for people who have made the really weird decision to watch the movie with the commentary first.
But you've seen it at this point, right?
Right. No. Like, even if you're watching it for the first time, you've seen the wrapping paper with the gift that Greg gives Esmeralda. And then Greg gives his daughter a gift in the same wrapping paper. And I had this was one of the things that kind of divided on stark gender lines. because obviously Esmeralda Anna gets very upset that he uses the same wrapping paper for the gift to her and the gift to Shannon. Men didn't understand that. Men are like, "What's the big deal? Who cares that he used the same wrapping paper for two different?"
Including me, I didn't get it.
But all the women were like, "That's dead on." I'd be furious. I would be absolutely furious if I found out my man gave more than one gift with the same wrapping paper. So I felt vindicated by that. So.
And Bill, do you mind telling me? This is one of my favorite anecdotes. Is what Jim said when we were driving out to Orange County.
Yes. Well, we've already passed.
Right, bathtub scene.
Yeah, we passed the bathtub scene, which is what we would all refer to it as the bathtub scene. As in, we don't have a bathtub for the bathtub scene yet. When do we need a bathtub for the bathtub scene? That was one of the biggest production challenges, is finding an appropriate bathtub.
Yeah, so there were a couple of things that we kind of kept kicking down the road, and I knew that they were going to become a problem, but we just kept kicking them down the road. So one was having a BMW for the gift.
Right.
And
also the Abuela scene, which is upcoming, but yeah.
Oh, the Abuela scene as well. And then the other thing was a bathtub. Now that sounds simple, but when you're working with a micro budget and you can't just, throw money at a location to get a bathtub, and you want something aesthetically pleasing, it becomes challenging. And I think the thinking was, well, we have plenty of friends that have bathtubs. We could just shoot it in any bathtub. And I kind of knew, well, yeah, but I don't know how nice those bathtubs are. So
that is a fair point.
I had a feeling it was going to be an issue, and then eventually, so I spoke to a friend of mine who's fairly well off and has a very, he's since moved, but at that time he had a very nice house out in Rancho Santa Margarita, which is in Orange County, kind of deep Orange County, and he agreed to let us use the bathtub there and to shoot that scene there. So
we were shooting the bathtub scene 2 days before we wrapped. So it was like the second to last day or whatever. And it was the day we were going to shoot that morning after we had shot at night in Santa Clarita, and we didn't wrap until 2 or 3. So Jim Esham, who also produced the movie, was driving me back from Santa Clarita, which is about 30 miles north of where we were staying. And at one point he goes, "I can't believe I have to wake up in 4 hours and watch you take a bath all day tomorrow. I hate this goddamn movie."
It was specifically, I can't believe that I have to wake up.
Right. I have to wake up in 4 hours and watch you take a bath all day.
To drive 100 miles to watch you take a bath.
Yeah, I forgot about that part. I have to wake up in 4 hours to drive to Orange County to watch you take a bath all day. I hate this goddamn movie. And that's how you feel when you're 23 days into a 25-day shoot of a micro-budget film. You just please. It kind of reminds me, I traveled around the world for 10 months, and people ask me if I had a great time, and I go, yeah, it was a great time, but it's kind of like pregnancy, although I've never been pregnant. It's like by the 8th month, you kind of want it done. You kind of want to get this baby out of me. So by the 23rd day of a 25-day micro-budget shoot, it's like, I got to watch Bill take a bath for a day? God, get this movie over with.
Hey, it's tough to stay in a bath that long, I bet.
It was not my most comfortable day on set. Let's just, there's more than one. There's more than just finding the right bathtub. Why we kicked it down the road for so often. I was not eager to shoot. I mean, that was. I have a bit of advice for all people who want to act in movies that they've written. Is don't cast as your co-star a woman who weighs 90 pounds, because you're going to look like Sasquatch no matter what kind of shape you're in. It just feels ridiculous. So.
Well, I will say that to Bill's credit, again, he wrote a part that he wanted to challenge himself. He wanted to do things that scared him, and one of those things was getting naked on camera. And although the nudity part is pretty much cut out. I mean,
that's the irony. We didn't use it. So, but yeah, when I was a young boy dreaming of becoming a film, I wrote on my bucket list is be naked in a movie. So I can cross that off. So there you go. So this is the aforementioned Abuela scene. That's Jonay Shady, who's a wonderful actor. She works all the time. And that was another scene where it's like, well, we need an abuelo. We don't have a grandmother yet. It's like, well, we have time. Finally, we had like less than a day, and she came in and saved the day for us. She was wonderful. This scene is one of my favorite scenes because it really kind of explains a lot of motivation for Anna's character. And T deserves full credit for this because this scene wasn't in the original script. And this scene and the next scene, T goes, I kind of want to see where Anna comes from. I kind of want to see the germ of an idea for how she starts off on this life as an escort. So he had me write like 4 or 5 drafts of these 2 scenes. And I was kind of like, I didn't complain to him, but inside I was kind of grumbling, going, another one of these, another draft. But they really tie the movie together for everyone. And I think that they're powerful in their subtlety. I think they're powerful because we don't kind of bang you over the head with it. I'm really proud of them. And I'm really glad that, it's one of the million things that T did right on this movie. So I'm really glad he pushed me to write them. So.
Mm-hmm. Earlier we had actually talked about, of course, with AMFM magazine, but I'm also on a show, Drew Pearson Live, or the Ultimate Hail Mary, and we had talked about those Hail Mary moments. And of course, Sam wasn't here for this, but you guys both had very interesting Hail Mary moments in your life or career that I thought it'd be kind of neat to share right here.
Well, and can I just pause for a second? You said you're on a show with Drew Pearson.
That's right.
I just put that connection together myself. That's
Me
amazing.
too. Drew Pearson of the Dallas Cowboys, of the famous original Hail Mary.
Hail Mary, yeah.
Number 88.
I have been a huge Cowboys fan ever since I was a kid. So Cowboys and Dolphins, those are my teams. So I just processed that you said it's Drew Pearson. That's incredible.
Right. Yeah, we film every week, and right now we're filming the Ultimate Hail Mary, which is his journey to the Hall of Fame. And we're going to go to Canton, Ohio in August, on August 8th, 88, when he's going to be inducted. So he has made sure that his bust has the big fro, because he says he has the biggest fro that was in the NFL, and he got measured for his Hall of Fame ring and his gold jacket, and he's ready. But we've been asking guests of all kinds, from musicians to actors to business people, all their Hail Mary moments, and it's great to hear those stories, to know just the struggles, the things that people have done. They've slept in their cars, they've borrowed money, they've done whatever they could just to make things work, and I think those kind of stories are neat to share.
That's right. First of all, I think I can't believe you're saying that Drew Pearson is just now getting inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
That's great.
We all can't believe it. He's been waiting 30 years.
Wow, that's unbelievable. All right. So that aside, I will say I will let Bill elaborate on this, but I will explain that Bill was, for all intents and purposes, homeless, jobless, and carless throughout the shooting of this movie.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that you've announced the resume that will surely attract all the employers, so I actually, I can think of 3 Hail Mary moments, and the first one, I was working a pretty good job, but I was unhappy, and I had always fantasized about taking a trip around the world, and I kind of thought to myself, I'm running out of time to kind of take this trip around the world. So I guess that kind of constituted a Hail Mary, just to kind of quit my job and take that trip. And then the second Hail Mary was, while I was traveling, I kind of wrote the 1 Hour Outcall screenplay. And when I got back, I had no job. So I kind of said to myself, well, you're also kind of running out of time to try and make a micro budget film. So I decided to do that. And having no job was actually a benefit because I had the time to do it. Having no home was okay because I had plenty of friends who were willing to let me sleep on their couch. As I've said, the most difficult challenge in doing it was having no car, because if you have no car in Los Angeles, people kind of treat you worse than if you had a terminal disease. So that was a Hail Mary moment, deciding to make the movie. And then there was a Hail Mary moment during the making of the film It was right when we were starting the restaurant sequence. That was going to be 4 nights, and I was out of money. And it was one of those things where I'm very proud of the fact that I paid everyone on the crew and I paid the cast, and everyone got paid. But if I didn't raise a significant amount of cash within 24 hours, we were going to have to pull the plug. And I remember, and I give T credit for this, even though I kind of disagreed with him. It'll make sense in a second. But T and I were sitting in a car, and I was worried about this. And T goes, even if we have to stop right now, we already have a movie. And I just said to him, I go, I understand what you're doing, and I can appreciate what you're saying, but I don't feel that way. I don't feel that I don't feel that I've done what I set out to do. And that was kind of a Hail Mary moment. I kind of dug deep and made a couple of calls the next day, and we got the money to get it in the can. And then I've been able to kind of lay the train track as we went, and here we are. So I guess those are 3 Hail Mary moments. That the third one is me stepping over that Minnesota Viking defender and prancing in the end zone. So
That's right.
Wait a minute, stepping over that. Are you saying he pushed off? Is that?
Well, we don't need to relitigate that. I mean, man's a ball. So
I think that was a legitimate catch.
Yeah. And no gloves. Man.
That's right. That's right.
So my brother's a Cowboys fan too. So.
Yeah. As he says, he doesn't drop anything, not even phone calls. Yeah. Well, look, we're in the credits now. I do want to hear if we can. Well, there's probably a Hail Mary that's for each of you guys as well that's tied into this.
Sam, did you have a Hail Mary?
I guess I would say mine was when I moved to LA. I didn't really have. I had a part-time retail job locked down. That was about it. My friend and I came out here. We didn't even have a place to live yet. We had a potential place to live, but we weren't sure if it was going to work out or not. But we both drove out here. I'm originally from Maryland, so I drove to LA over the course of a week, and we got a place, and I just started taking internships, jobs for free, trying to work my way into this industry of ours, and eventually found my way into an assistant editing gig and grew from there. So I guess that was mine, is just kind of moving across the country on a whim.
Amazing. And T, we got to have one for you as well.
Yeah, I feel like my life is just one big Hail Mary. Although I will say, this is kind of like what I had said to you earlier, is that on every project that I work on, there is this fearful voice, a very strong, fearful voice that comes in and says, you absolutely cannot make this project. And that's the voice I always go against. And that's what pushes me. When that voice comes up, I know I have to make the project. And for me, that's the Hail Mary.
Yeah. Well, this certainly was a great Hail Mary. And I know that there's, we've covered so much during this film, but now that we've wrapped is, and assuming that people were not watching it the first time like this, is there something else that you want to share that now that people have now that we finished this, because we talked earlier about what you want people to take away from this, and I think maybe that's something good to touch on as well.
Well, I want to know if people feel that the twist in this movie is more significant than the twist in Chinatown. Let's compare Chinatown versus 1 Hour Outcall. Which is the more surprising twist?
Way to manage expectations, T. Wait a minute.
Put your comments in the chat. Anybody who's watching.
Well, my goal isn't quite as grandiose as T's. I really hope people enjoyed the movie, were entertained by the movie. It's kind of a parallel kind of track, because you have goals for people in the actual movie, and then you have goals for people in your kind of making of the movie. I'm genuinely proud of the movie. I'm genuinely proud of all the work that so many people put into it. And I don't want to be too grandiose about it, but I do kind of hope it's inspirational to people who are thinking or debating whether or not trying to make a movie like this, that they can do it. I said all along that in addition, of course I want everyone on the planet to see it, and I want it to make a Google amount of money. But like short of that, I just want it to prove that I can do it, and then give me the opportunity to make another one, because it was a blast. Even as hard as it was to do it, it was a blast to do it. And I'd like to do it again. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And is there anything else that you guys wanted to add about sort of takeaways here from this? Because again, like I said, I think depending on your life's experience, or if you've been on either side of this, you may have a different perspective.
Well, first I would say, to the people who watched it and enjoyed it, please share it, tell people about it.
Everyone you know. Yes.
Yeah, because that is how independent films, micro-budget films like this get seen, is really through word of mouth. It's on a lot of different platforms, as you can see from the graphic that Sam put up there. It's Vudu and YouTube and Amazon and Apple. And so it's on a lot of different platforms. And of course, I would love for people to see it. And in terms of, I think your question was partly about life experiences and.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So for me, it was a great experience, first of all, and second of all, so I'm a single father. I'm a single parent, and so. Doing this film it was really something that I wanted to do it. I really wanted to do it, but because, that it creates so many challenges being a single parent, it is difficult to commit to things as big as this. And I was really lucky to have a team, even though it was a small team, and to, Jim and Sam and Bill. I feel very fortunate that that Bill did push me to do my best and to finish the film, and that it was going to be worth it, and it has been worth it. I set very low expectations for Bill in the beginning because I've had disappointments in the past in terms of what my films have done. And I've had a lot of success as well. But I set the expectations pretty low. I said, Bill, it's a nonlinear film. It's a drama. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be a hard sell. And it's a film that deals with the sex industry, but it's not, exploitative in any way, and so it's going to be a tough sell. And boy, was I wrong. People seem to enjoy it. I got distribution. A lot of people are watching it, and so I'm glad that that's been a great experience for me. Is just pushing through.
Oh, I love that, and it is really neat to see that it can make its way out there into the world, and that is inspirational. But let's also say that it does help when people. What are some of the things that people at home, that they really loved it, can do besides recommend it to friends? Does it help with algorithms to comment about these things? To do a Rotten Tomatoes review? To do a IMDb? What are some things that people can do to help push this along?
Yeah, rate it, review it.
All of those things.
Search for it. Watch it every night. Put it on before you go to bed.
Background.
That's right. Leave it on when you leave the home.
Leave it on. Put it on a loop. However you do. No, but rating and reviewing it is important. Word of mouth is important. The irony is as hard as it was to make the movie, it's like I wrote a novel, And it's kind of similar to me writing a novel. Is I thought writing the novel was climbing to the mountaintop, and then you get to the top and you realize that there's a whole series of mountains ahead of you, and that's selling the novel and getting anyone to pay attention to the novel. And the film is kind of similar. I mean, the movie was really hard. It was a challenge, and it was, we really all dug deep to get it done, and getting people to pay attention is just as hard. So any help, if you like this, anything you can do to talk about it that leaves a footprint online or telling people or spreading word of mouth is hugely helpful. So we have a Twitter account, we have a Facebook page, all those things help. So
OneHourOutcall.com, I think, is where all that stuff lives, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And things like this too, as well. If people weren't able to join us, then it will be available on the YouTube page, and people can share it. They can watch it later. And there's so many ways to support the independent films. And now, knowing just how micro the budget was, it's it really is great to see that this has made it out there in the world. And as you can see up there with the logos, you can get your film out into the world and do fun things like this where we get to talk about it, because it certainly took you long enough to get it done, which is admirable.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Paul.
Absolutely. Well, we've definitely enjoyed having you guys on with us today, and I think this has been really, really fun. And I think hopefully we can do a lot more of these, but we definitely want to make sure that we keep in contact with you guys. So, and everyone else should as well. So make sure you like those pages, make sure you comment. Let's get it in the feeds, and support the film, because it was a great film, and we enjoyed talking about it and all being here together tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Paul.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you guys for being with us, and on behalf of AMFM Magazine and with these guys for 1 Hour Outcall, we'll look forward to seeing you guys again very, very soon.